Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Four Towers Films.
And I'm Doug 218. Good evening, guys.
We are back and we are recapping I Big Brother season 23, and it's week 2. We recapped the entire week of what happened last week.
So let's kick this off, shall we?
We shall. Well, as you guys all know, it's Frenchie's week, and he won HOH, and so that means his team is safe for the week, as well as himself. And so then really the first big competition, well, his thinking was he wanted to get a meathead out of the house. So when he considers a meathead, it's like, you know, the athletic, the big guys.
Jock.
Yeah, and he told actually all the women they were safe. He wasn't going to put them up because he said it kind of happens too much that women get targeted. And it's true. They tend to get targeted a lot through the early part of the game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like, you got to think of this. It's not like it's Survivor where you kind of need your strongest players to get your tribe further in. Like, that's true. This is very much an individual game. Yes, it helps to have an alliance, but a lot of the challenges don't actually require a lot of brute strength. No. You know, because it's a smaller house and stuff. So, I mean, a lot of it's actually puzzles and
it's more thinking. It's
more, like thinking things. So you don't necessarily need your big jock tight, really. But they do tend to protect them more a lot of times. So, but his thinking is, and it's probably one of the only ones I've ever seen think that way, is to get rid of the jock type guys in the house first, instead of targeting the women. So that was kind of his thinking. He's going around and actually talking to a lot of them, and he's promising safety to almost half the house.
Well, he was almost like that stereotypical sleazy used car salesman. I'll make you a deal. I'll make you a deal. Oh, listen, I'm going to get a meathead out. I'll make you a deal.
Well, so you remember when they first came in the house, the first four guys he came in with, the 3 other guys he came in with, he all promised him safety. So, I mean, he's either going to have to go back on his word on that. Yeah. Because 1 or 2 of them are what he would consider meatheads, or he's going to have to target one of the other guys in the house, kind of thing, or change the strategy completely. So, well, we go into the first wild card competition.
Now, this one,
which is a brandy comp.
This one was, the premise was, it was an all-night rager. You've woken up. Now you got to get into the suite, get your cell phone, your keys, and your wallet. Right.
It's all over the place, and it's a big mess.
Without, quote unquote, waking up everyone else.
Yeah.
Without making too much noise.
Which you would actually lose points of, because they have mics set up in all the places where you would tend to make a lot of noise. So it would be like points. You could lose like 1 point. You lose 5 points, all the way up to like 20 or 30 points. So,
exactly.
And so the goal is to have the lowest score possible
in the fastest
time. So you have, I think it was 3 minutes. To go through it, and then if you exceeded that, you would actually get penalties for every minute, I think, that you were in the house longer than you're supposed to be. So, or in that area where you were supposed to be.
So, it was Christian.
It was Christian. I think Hannah. I can't remember the other 2. Frenchie? No, Frenchie.
No, Frenchie was safe.
Because they actually did, they pick. And so the thing with the wild card, once you played in it, you can't play in it again. So I think Kylan played it this time. Kylan, I think Christian, Hannah. I forget who the 4th one is.
Because.
Maybe not. Was it Travis?
Maybe.
I can't remember, but anyway.
But it was funny to watch, because they're all, some of them, their strategy was, I'm going to tiptoe through the place, but try and be as quick as possible. Right. But Big Brother's got it set up like there's cans behind the doors,
which they knocked over.
Your keys are put inside this, like, almost like a vase that, like, of or like a sculpture made out of like wine glasses, and you had
It was
to,
like underneath the wine glass tower, or a champagne flute tower. So you had to like reach in and take that without knocking it down. None of them did it, which was good.
yeah.
Knock down the glasses, and then like I think it was the keys were actually in the drain with all these marbles around. I had to reach in, and none of them moved the marbles, which would have made noise anyway. But they reached in, and then the cell phone, I think was with the cell phone there, and the wallet was like on a shelf or something.
Behind something else.
Yeah.
And it basically the whole thing was set up to that
make noise. Yeah.
You were gonna make noise.
Right.
But it ended up that Christian won.
Christian won it, yeah. What's interesting is because of his speed, Hannah actually had a lower noise number.
But she was too long.
But she was too long. She actually went over, so she was gaining penalty points.
Yeah.
Where Christian was louder, but he was faster, so he actually won the first
wild card
challenge. So, which means he'd be safe for the week, and he'd have a choice. Like there was like this big roulette wheel that they could spin, and if depending on what number he landed on, he could actually save anyone from one other person on his team or to his whole team. So he spun it, and he got one, and so he ended up saving Xavier.
Yeah.
So
you can kind of see where this there's like always going to be like a cause and effect.
Right. It's like a gamble. Like the whole gambling thing comes into play here.
And so Country Boy's like, dang it.
Yeah, because Christian really is who we wanted to nominate. And so while that was off the table, so he's like, okay, now I promise this one, I promise this one, I promise this one, you know. And he had a lot of different conversations.
He had so many conversations with people. You needed a flow chart and pens to keep track of all the people he talked to.
And so, like, he actually, one of his first things he thought of nominating is Kylan. And the reason he did that is not because he was a target, but because he said he trusted him. Because he wanted to try to win POV. And in fact, he figured he could trust him. And it's like, well, why? And some of them have said this, why are you going to put up somebody who you actually trust?
You trust me, but
on the block? It doesn't really make sense. Like, you really should be putting up people you don't trust on the block.
Exactly.
Not people you do trust on the block, but at least at this point in the game, anyway.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what he was thinking. So then he was trying to think, his initial thought, one of us who wanted to go after Christian was he thought
him and Alyssa
Hannah were
Alyssa.
I thought it was Hannah.
That's why
Alyssa was in a relationship. And so they said, no, that's not fair at all. So he actually really couldn't go after him anyway, he was safe. But so he thought, okay, well, I can't do that then.
Yeah.
So he started thinking around of who he should be nominating. And he ended up on Travis because he was saying really he was the only one left out of the ones he had prob safety to was Travis.
He was also throwing the stink eye to Derek X.
Yeah. Although I don't think he thinks of him as a meathead because he tends to come across as smart.
Yeah.
And stuff, and not to say the other guys aren't smart, but he tends to come across not as a meathead, but more as a smart guy kind of thing, rather than come across more as jock kind of guys. So I think he almost kind of eliminated Derek X as a potential in that regard. Although he might be thinking twice about it now, but but I think that's kind of where his thinking was. And so he kind of narrowed down really to Travis and said he was thinking who should he put up against Travis. And he ended up putting Alyssa on the... Well,
before even Travis hit the block, we had our first veto.
No, yeah, he nominated Kylan and he nominated, I believe it was Alyssa.
Yeah, because Christian...
He won the backdoor idea, though.
So
then we go into veto.
And then we find out our first alliance makes an appearance.
Yeah. There's actually a couple alliances, but now whether or not they're still holding, but this is obviously week 2's alliance.
Okay, so on Wednesday we meet the cookout.
Yeah, right.
Now the cookout consists of Tiffany, Derek F., Ozza, Xavier, and Kylan.
Right.
I
like the name of the cookout.
It's unique.
It is. It's different
compared to some of the cruddy names that came.
Or including the bigger alliance later on.
Hold that idea. Okay, so while this is going on, Brent kind of, like you were saying, Brent kind of pitches Travis Frenchie.
Yeah.
Like, hey, maybe this is the meathead you might want to take out of here.
Yeah, because remember, Frenchie trusts Brent.
Yeah.
They have a pretty good relationship right now.
So
this week.
So Vito.
There's another alliance, so.
That's coming. So on Thursday.
Well, and a base one.
Yeah. So Thursday it's Vito. And
Wednesday.
Okay. So the players for Vito were Frenchie, Alyssa, Kylan, Tiffany, Travis, and Derek X. Frenchie's head explodes.
Yeah, because actually, he actually wanted Derek X at this point. He was going to target him.
And he's like, God dang it! The two people I didn't want to play the darn thing are playing it.
Yeah.
So basically, the idea was to win the veto, you had to slide your cherry down this platform. It looked like a big margarita, like a cocktail glass.
Cocktail thing.
And you had to position your condiments.
Like fruits and like a straw.
And to get the cherry into the glass. At the bottom.
Yeah.
Everyone is struggling with this, but Derek X.
He's actually smart.
He's like, okay, I'm looking at this one, I'm looking at that one. He figures out the bottom. Mm-hmm. Now he starts working on the top.
Yeah. He actually waited and saw what other people had done to see, that looks about right.
Yeah,
so
that
then
works.
he did that, and then he's figured out the top.
Yeah, and Derek X wins it.
And it was actually very close between him and Alyssa.
So he wins the veto. Frenchie says, listen, I want it used.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Because if I want him gone, and the following week, the other Derek's going to go.
Right, Derek X.
So Derek X is like, okay, if I can kind of like take the target off me a little bit and, kind of calm him down a little bit, I'll do whatever I got to do.
Yeah.
So veto meeting, Derek X steps up. He says, okay, Kylan, I got to take you.
Because they're actually like, they're friends.
Kind
of thing. And plus her.
And so his meathead hits the block. Travis. So Thursday.
You start to find out about his other alliances.
Here we go. So like Xavier and Kylan, they tell Alyssa, hey, listen, you're safe.
Right.
You're safe.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Alliance, the next alliance that we find out, this is Frenchie's.
The Slaughterhouse. There's 8 in it. So
okay.
4 that are in his team.
So Xavier, Whitney, and Frenchie, Derek F., Christian, Kylan, Brent, and Alyssa.
Right.
Now remember, Brent and Derek F. have final 2 with Frenchie.
Right. For now.
Then Frenchie's thinking, well, I got this idea. If I go and, I cover the other side of the house, then I'm covered all the way around.
Yeah, he's trying to do what other ones have done, is try to make an alliances with other parts of the house that weren't initially part of his team.
Here's where he messed up. He walked to the girls and said, I had this dream about starting an all-girl
alliance. Yeah.
And Ozza's like, yeah, I like the idea of an all-girl alliance, but why am I going to be in an all-girl alliance with you?
Frenchie, yeah.
Yeah.
And they thought of calling it French kiss. But that's not really a true line.
And the girls are like, whatever. So the queens, they get together. Like, they want to keep Travis. They want to keep their team whole. And I understand that. So they're like, okay, listen, Travis, you really got to play off Frenchie's fears. You know, tell him, if you keep me, I'll be a bigger shield for you, you know.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I can do this. I've done sales. I can make anyone
believe me or
buy into what I'm selling. So after, you know, Travis comes and does his pitch.
And see, a lot of them were saying, like, a lot of them did actually want to keep Travis over Alyssa, kind of thing. So, of course, his team and all that. And so they were thinking maybe they should try to get Derek X not to use the veto and things like that. And so there's a lot of discussions on feeds and stuff about trying to get ways to convince him not to use the veto. And he kept saying, well, I got to do what French wanted, and because that's what the HOH wants, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, you know, no, like, this would actually be better for your game.
Why are you listening to what this
not do that kind of thing.
So
there's a lot of discussions all week.
Yeah. And we get to the eviction. Travis does his spiel. But before we got there, it was Kylan's 30th birthday.
Yeah, they had a party.
And they had a party. And Travis is like, well, you know what? If I'm gonna go, I'm gonna at least have some fun. Everyone thinks I'm a knucklehead, so I'm gonna, you know, just have some fun. And he gave Kylan the lap dance.
Right. Well, because they
kind of put it up
played it off that it'd be a female, and so they had him like hide behind the sheet kind of thing, and then they dropped it, and it was Travis in a dress.
I wonder which one of them volunteered the dress.
I don't know.
You made it work though.
Yeah, it did. You know, there was a bit of controversy though.
Okay.
Wasn't on the show. I do not know if it's been resolved or what, but if you guys watch any of the feeds, there was a bit of a controversy with Brent and Hannah during the toga party. Now, there's a video. I'm sure you can find it if it's still out there. There's a longer version of it. So people were saying that Brent touched Hannah inappropriately. So if you watch the video, like the longer of it, they were in togas. Now, apparently, I didn't see that part, but they're saying that earlier in the day, Hannah had asked him to help her with her toga, making it. And so we can't hear what they're saying or anything. But she turns toward him, like her back to him, like she's maybe asking him something. We can't tell. We can't hear it.
Yeah, there's no dialogue.
And then Alyssa's kind of behind Hannah, looks like she's cooking. And Alyssa turns, like, I don't know if Brent said something. Alyssa looks like he's talking to Alyssa. And so he kind of does, like, one of these kind of things, like that. As far as I can see, his hands are open, does that kind of thing around Alyssa's bottom, Hannah's bottom. Now, Hannah doesn't react, so I don't know if he actually touched her or not, or if she asked him to fix something or not. So I know there's a bit of controversy here. There's, I know Twitter and some of the websites have kind of blown up about it, that it was inappropriate. Now, it's also kind of being paired with the fact of, apparently he's been saying some things in the house about some of the women that some of them didn't like.
Okay.
Like Hannah said that he said to her that she was fun-sized. And so it's like, I don't think she liked that too much. And then I think it was Whitney he was talking to, and he said something to her about that she actually has a good body. Now, this is all in the feeds, wasn't shown on the show. Okay. I do not know if it's been rectified or if somebody's talked to him about this or what. So,
but we haven't seen it.
We haven't seen it yet because I don't get to watch the feeds that much. So, but what I heard, I haven't heard anything since. So, but that also happened around the party.
So we get to the eviction. The eviction comes down to 11 to 2
Right.
now. It was supposed. I got the jive that it was supposed to be kind of unanimous.
Yeah. Well,
But-
we found out later that it was actually planned not to be 100% unanimous, except for one vote. It was supposed to be only like one vote.
And
that was not.
So,
So we'll tell you that next week.
That's next week's story.
Yeah.
So
It ended up being Travis.
Travis left. But it took forever to get him out the door.
Well, yeah, he was like hugging and talking. I'm actually surprised Julie didn't say, "Come on, Travis, gotta go." You know, because they always say you got like a minute or so to say goodbye.
It kind of sounded like Julie's like, okay.
Yeah.
You know, you could kind of hear over the
Kinda. Not like other times. Other times you'd be like, "Okay, Travis, like,
let's
no,
go."
actually, really, kind of.
We need to talk.
Yeah.
We need to keep the show flowing.
Right. But he was like hugging everybody.
He hugged everyone. He,
yeah.
you know, he was a likable guy.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
It just didn't pan out for him.
I just don't know. Like, I don't see, and I think some of the others have said, I don't know if there's really a legitimate reason to vote him out, because I don't think he was really against Frenchie. So, you know, at that point. So, really, I don't know if he would have been. So, I don't, just because he considered him like a jock, I don't know if it was really a legitimate reason or not.
Well, to Frenchie, it seemed legitimate.
I guess so, in his mind, anyway.
Okay. They
So then we go into the HOH.
HOH. Now it was kind of like a pool, like a pool game. And they had
to. It was really set up weird.
Yeah, they had.
It's almost like mini golf meets pool.
And they had to choose positions.
Right. They got like pool balls. It's like almost like in a semicircle.
And each one got one shot.
And they chose positions. The hardest shot.
Yep.
To the easiest shot.
So.
And they had to actually get their ball into a shark's mouth.
And you couldn't have any bank shots. It had to be a straight shot in.
Some of them are like, how would you ever get it in? Well, you know, just where the position of where they were, to where the shark mouth was. How would you ever get it in without bank shotting it? I mean, somebody did, but I mean, like, how would you do that from way over here? I don't know. You have to be an excellent shot.
Oh, yeah. So let's just talk about who actually sunk the shots.
Yeah. Okay.
So Alyssa chose the easiest spot to shoot from.
Like 16, spot 16.
They're
all numbered.
So she shot. Brent was right after her.
And she got it in.
She got it in.
Of course, they're almost a direct straight.
Yeah, it's a direct line. If you cock that up, then
then you really suck it. That both pool and mini golf.
So Brent shot, knocked her off. So he was the leader.
Yeah, he was I think 15, like base 15.
So it was 8 other people shot and missed.
Right. Well, it was starting to get harder.
Because the angle was getting more extreme.
More severe, yeah.
And then it got to Kylan, who was in slot 24.
Right. It's quite the angle he had to deal with.
Mm-hmm. He shot and knocked Brent off.
Right.
So then there was 4 more after that.
Right.
That shot.
It was like almost directly onto the side of the shark's face.
So you had to be like an absolute marksman to hit this.
Yeah.
And the last 4 missed.
Right.
So
Kylan is our new HOH.
And it was, you know, it looked, you would think it was easy, but it was a tough shot for a lot of them to make.
Oh, you bet. Yeah.
You know,
very difficult shot.
What'd you think of week 2?
It was an interesting week for week 2. I mean, you could kind of, like, if you've been watching any of the feeds, you could see, and even the show, you could kind of start to see, it's like French is starting to kind of dissolve a little bit.
Dissolve?
Like, I think paranoia almost is starting to set in a tad. I think, well, we'll get to it next week, what happened tonight's episode, but you can kind of start to see it even with his HOH, that there was a bit of he's all over the place.
He's trying to control everything at once, and nothing's working.
And the fact that he had promised multiple people they were safe, and then ended up actually not, because he promised Travis he was safe, as well as Alyssa, and he nominated both of them, as well as Kylan, although he did tell Kylan he was safe, but or that he would nominate him because he wanted him to be in the veto and stuff, but I trusted him. But it's like, I don't know, you could kind of start to see, even then, he's all over the place a little bit, and then the fact that they're not really trusting what he's saying, because he's kind of scattered a little bit. So obviously, as the week went on in Peach, kind of see it more, but we'll get to that next week for week 3. But in the, but you can almost see the seeds of that already.
Oh yeah.
So and I wonder about some of the, like, I can't see the slaughterhouse lasting. It might, even if French is not in it, kind of thing.
It might be a tough sell.
I don't know. And a lot of times these early alliances don't last.
No.
So we'll see. What do you think of week 2?
Week 2 was good. Like Frenchie trying to control too many aspects at once.
Yeah.
And we've seen more than enough seasons with players that have done this and
playing too hard too fast.
Too hard too fast, and they've blown themselves up in the process. There's very few that can do that, play all angles, and manage to keep the game straight.
It's very tricky to do that.
Oh yeah.
It's very few that have managed it.
But he is becoming a liability, really. You can see it. He's going from a good old country boy to like paranoid Yahoo in one fell swoop.
Unfortunately,
it's true.
Yeah.
And when you have somebody like that in your alliance, how do you trust that?
Well, that's the thing. He can actually bring the alliance down.
Yeah.
It can actually be very detrimental to
For
your
sure.
If you got somebody like that, because do you trust him not to say anything to other members? Like, like maybe he'd be like not starting to trust his own alliance. So he's like, oh, I think I'm going to jump ship and I'm going to find other people to be aligned with. And so, like, and then does he go off and blab what he knows? Kind of thing? I mean, how do you trust that?
You can't.
Because, like, he doesn't seem to be even trusting a lot of people who are even in his own alliance, and they're like, I don't even know what's going on. So, it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Especially this soon in the game.
It's too soon
soon. He's playing very hard. Really early.
I'll be interested to see if he somehow survives week 3.
Well, we have Kylan now, remember, and I mean, he already put Kylan up, so.
Yeah. So, you would expect a retaliatory
you would.
nomination.
Yeah. In fact, we already know who he nominated, but.
That's next week.
We could tell you. But
you want to tell?
Do we want to tell? Or do we want it to be next week?
Next week.
Next week? Okay,
well, this is.
Next week to find out then, huh?
This is your channel, your choice.
Yes, it is. Well, it's consensus. We'll tell you next week. Sometimes we'll give you a spoiler of who we nominated.
But not today.
So, not today.
But, I would expect.
If you watch Speech, you already know. So.
That's
or if you watched tonight's episode, you already know. So.
Spoilers.
Not if you watched the episode.
Somebody might not have.
May not have. That's true.
But, if he somehow survives week 3.
Or, yeah.
It just makes me wonder.
Never know.
Stranger things have happened.
Never know.
I'm just gonna have to strap in, tighten up the seatbelt, and hold on.
I think it might be bumpy week.
Woo, I think so for the farmer man. But it's early days. It's early days in the game.
It is early days. So
let's see what's coming.
It's really only for us. It's the first full weekend. Well, I think they actually went in live, so it's really the only first full week.
Yeah.
So even though technically it's week 2, it's really only the first full week. But, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, thank you for joining us, and thank you for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me in.
It was fun, and hopefully you will come back and visit us and maybe chat with us next week. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you know when we go live every Sunday with Big Brother Season 23. And we will see you next week. Have a good week, guys.
Have a great week, guys.
Bye.
See you. Bye.